Hey fellow writers, we are going back to that whole Author of the Month topic from our video 2 weeks ago, the one titled 3 Typos to Look For Before You Press the Publish button. Now I am going to include the link down in the description section below, along with a few other important links I'm about to bring up, but just a quick little rundown for those of you who did not watch it. I was talking about common editorial mistakes that I have personally found in potential Author of the Month book picks, most of which are self-published. And for those of you who don't know what the Author of the Month program is, it's the spotlight I shine onto less known authors whose books I really enjoyed or appreciated. Now, Author of the Month includes an e-interview and links to the featured writer's social media sites, their author platform, and of course their book or books in question. It's my way of giving my free e-letter readers, some really great reading choices that they otherwise would not know anything about. And it's also my way of giving these writers a great platform to get some more readers. Of course, though, as much as I hate to say this, not every Author of the Month hopeful does get chosen. I always feel so bad sending those emails and everything and saying, I'm sorry, but this wasn't what we were looking for. But at the same time, it has to happen. It's kind of inevitable. Now, there are a number of reasons why I might pass on a book, but the biggest one is simply that the opening just didn't grab me. And isn't that the main reason why most readers end up opting out of buying a book that they check out? If they're not drawn in by the first few paragraphs, why are they going to waste their time continuing on? That's not to say that someone else might not enjoy it, but it just wasn't their taste, or maybe it wasn't, well, I'm not even going to go there. It just wasn't their taste, regardless. So this begs the question of what kind of opening is a good opening? Great question, and I wish that there was a simple answer, but alas, there's just not a one-size-fits-all answer to go off of here. To a large degree, it depends on the genre that you're working within and whether your ideal readers want to be intrigued, whether they want to be thrilled, educated, delighted, freaked out, grossed out, transported, confirmed, and so many other different emotions or emotional results. Personally, I will say yes to any of that outside of being grossed out. That's just not my thing. I am just as much of a multi-genre reader as I am a multi-genre writer, but even then, there's a lot that can make me put a book down. There's probably a lot more that can make me put a book down than can make me continue reading. I won't say that the following list that I've compiled applies to every single reader. Again, different readers, different tastes, different styles that they appreciate, etc., etc. But I will say that most of the reasons I've referenced in this video and in next week's, because this would otherwise be a very long video, they're pretty common first page gripes, except for perhaps this first one. I will admit that I'm not going to continue reading a book, more than likely, if there's something crude in it right on the first page or the second page, probably even the third. I'm not entirely anti-swear word or anti-crudeness, for the record. I own more than one R-rated movie, and I have more than one book on my shelf that goes into R-rated detail about something or another. I have them for two reasons. I'll be perfectly honest, because I find them fascinating or funny or engaging. In other words, I think they're worth my time, for whatever reason. Clearly then, I am not as pure as the driven snow when it comes to my entertainment choices, but I'm just also not a fan of smut for smut's sake. It does, okay, I'm going to sound like a complete and total snob here, but it does nothing for my emotions or my intellect, and really, if I'm going to read a book, well, I want one or the other, preferably both, to be stimulated. This doesn't just apply to language used, but also to activities described. For instance, I was browsing for a new thriller a few months ago when I picked up a book that just instantly introduced me, within the first 2 paragraphs, introduced me to a character's urine stream. To me, that's just not, it's just unnecessarily crass. If that's the opening, I don't see myself appreciating whatever is still to come. Again, that's me. That might be different for you, but that will definitely make me put aside a potential Author of the Month pick. Number 2, there's just too much backstory shoved at me, and this I think is much more universal. I'm not talking about prologues here, for the record, though those are often an absolute mess as well, to the point where, seriously, Most literary agents will throw a manuscript in the trash the second that they see a prologue. It's just how things go. I hate to break it to you. Prologues can actually be done quite well, but most of the time they're just not. But that's another topic for another day. Right now I am referencing when a book begins by introducing a character, gives a line or two describing him, and then spends the next 10 or more paragraphs giving backstory about him when I don't even know if I care about his current situation, much less his back situation. For me, at least, that's just a problem. If you're going to give me the backstory so quickly, then give it in a sentence or two. Leave the full-fledged details for later. It can even be, in the same chapter, just later, not the first few pages. Number 3, there's no real diversity to this sentence structure. This is a very big deal. Writing an engaging story requires understanding just how limited the written word really is. When we're speaking, we can use our tones and volumes and inflections to make ourselves sound a whole lot more interesting than we actually might be. When we're writing, though, we've got our words and our words alone, so we have to work extra hard to make those words count. It's not just a matter of having a good grasp on vocabulary either. It's also how we arrange that vocabulary. For example, sentences shouldn't always start out with no. Now, it would be nice if I could actually talk, but let's continue. For example, sentences shouldn't always start out with nouns, pronouns, or articles. Nor should they all be short or long or mid-sized. They should vary. Switch it up. Get creative. That makes for a much more engaging narrative versus one that reads monotonously just as badly as when a speaker never varies his voice. And speaking of narratives, actually speaking of voices, I think I'm losing mine. And speaking of narratives, this one is getting long. So we're going to wait until next week to pick up the list of ways book intros can push readers away instead of drawing them in like they're supposed to. So happy writing in the meantime, and I will catch you guys all next week. All right, bye.